Lord of Mystery. The Return of the Stars Chapter 231 to 240. Leonard stayed where he was. At this moment, he seemed to feel like a clown. What kind of plot development is this? This immortal witch let her go and is targeting Hasta again. How long has it been since Hasta fell under the charm of the witch? You can't blame Hasta for his weak resistance. He was easily defeated by the witch in just a few words. Moreover, Hasta's face is indeed very attractive, as well as his slender figure and extraordinary discussion, and he can also write poetry. No, I have to remind Hasta to stay away from this witch. This seemingly innocent girl in front of me is a terrifying existence that can break bones and suck out marrow. Leonard thought a lot at this moment. He put his arm around Hasta's shoulders, pretending to be angry, and wanted to drag him out of the bar, and then look for an opportunity to tell him about the true face of Miss Serafina. He pulled hard, but hey, there was no drag. Hasta was still sitting in his seat, looking at him curiously. Leonard, don't be so nervous. Miss Serafina just said this in front of you on purpose. Hasta smiled to calm Leonard down and motioned for him to drink a glass of wine before talking. Asta, this is not a question of truth or lie, she simply. Leonard wanted to say it, but when he caught a glimpse of Serafina's smiling eyes, he swallowed what he wanted to say. Don't worry, Miss Serafina came here tonight just to have something to do with me, and she doesn't want to settle the past love-hate entanglements with you. Hasta comforted Leonard again, telling him not to worry too much. What, she came to see you? Leonard was confused again. He could no longer figure out what was going on. I happen to know her daughter. She just came to give me something for someone else. Hasta said and looked at Serafina. Is that so, Miss Serafina? Daughter? Leonard's head was hit with a heavy hammer again, and the ageless witch in front of him actually had a daughter? And Hasta also knows the other party's daughter. This relationship is too complicated. Wait, wasn't she the mother of a friend's friend who fell in love with her in the first place? Leonard's mouth twitched. He really wanted to slap himself. Only now did he understand why Hasta was acting strangely about his relationship with Serafina, as if he was suppressing something. Asta must be embarrassed to tell himself that the other party is already a wife with a daughter. Of course, I didn't mean to catch some ruthless man. Serafina glanced at Leonard, who had a complicated look on his face, chuckled, and handed Hasta a piece of paper filled with content. On it was written the potion formula from Sequence 8 to Sequence 5 of the Witch Path. Miss Serafina, please make this trip yourself. It's really hard work. Hasta took the paper and put it directly into his pocket. Someone will always have to pay the price for their recklessness. I just hope it won't happen again. After saying that, Serafina drank the wine in the glass, then stood up and left. After her figure left the bar, Leonard finally reacted to the shock. He stood up, put his hands on Hasta's shoulders, and stared directly at Hasta. Asta, should you give me an explanation? What explanation? When did your relationship with that ageless Miss Serafina become so good? She is Mrs. Gemini's mother. I only found out about this not long ago. All her daughters are married. Leonard was stunned for a moment. Although he had expected it, he still couldn't bear it when he heard that the ageless witch was already a grandmother-level figure. He actually fell in love with a grandmother-level woman at that time, and even considered getting married and settling down. Yes, Leonard, you have really good taste, and Miss Serafina's daughter is also very beautiful. Quote. Leonard released his hands holding Hasta's shoulders and sat blankly in his seat, not knowing what he was thinking. After a while, he slapped himself, drank a glass of wine, and asked the bartender to bring it over. Asta thought for a moment and decided not to stimulate Leonard for the time being. The stimulation he received tonight would probably be something he would never forget. Next, there was no more conversation between the two people, and they each drank their own wine. Asta drank slowly and tasted every different kind of wine here, and Leonard started drinking Southwell beer in large glasses. At around 11 o'clock in the evening, Leonard, who was already smelling of alcohol, looked at Asta and said, Asta, tell me honestly, have you known Serafina's true identity for a long time? Asta raised his eyebrows slightly and said, are you referring to the fact that Miss Serafina is Mrs. Germani's mother? Quote. Leonard was choked on what he wanted to ask again. He paused for 2 or 3 seconds, waved his hand and said, it's nothing, I just feel a little strange. I'm also a little surprised. I'm afraid the breakup between you and Miss Serafina wasn't that simple, right? Quote. Leonard turned sideways, leaving Hastur with a trace of his back, and said in a low voice, "It's all gone. The past is like flowers. The flowers fly and the flowers wither. They can't be undone." Seeing Leonard like this, Asta couldn't help but stimulate him again. "Leonard, you have a sense of vicissitudes and stories, which makes it easy for girls to like you. Miss Serafina fell in love with you because of this, right?" Quote. Leonard shuddered immediately, quickly picked up the wine glass, and shouted loudly, "Drink." It was almost 1 o'clock in the morning when Leonard staggered to get up and leave. Leonard, who was already 8 points drunk, could no longer remember to pay the bill. Asta, who had eaten melon all night, could only help pay, including the money for Serafina's glass of wine. "Can you take a car back by yourself?" Asta was a little worried about Leonard's condition tonight. He drank one glass after another just now, and went to the bathroom 4 times. "It's okay, I know the way." Leonard obviously overestimated his alcohol tolerance. Asta stopped a car and asked his coachman to take Leonard back to St. Samuel Church, and took the stopped carriage home. In the carriage, Leonard opened the carriage curtain, feeling the cold wind in the early morning, and gradually recovered from his drunken state. Arriving near St. Samuel's Church, he gave the coachman a tip of £1 and then staggered back to his residence. As soon as he got home, Leonard threw himself on the bed and began to shout, "Old man, shouldn't you answer my doubts tonight? Aren't you still alive? Why are you so anxious to call me for help? That's the immortal witch. I called you to give you enough time to prepare. You are obviously scared." I am only sequence 7. Of course I will be nervous when facing an immortal witch. Isn't your friend Hastur always calm? Why don't you learn from him? When mentioning Hastur, Leonard sobered up a little and said seriously, "Do you think Hastur knows the true identity of the immortal witch Serafina?" Don't you already have the answer in your heart? Alas. Leonard sighed, "I didn't expect Hastur to be so calm in front of an immortal witch. Is he also a member of the witch sect?" After saying that, he laughed. "You know what, if Hastur becomes a witch, her appearance is definitely not inferior to that immortal witch. Then, you want to fall in love again." The sarcastic laughter made Leonard's face stern. "I'm not as dirty as you think. How do you know that the immortal witch didn't turn from a man into a witch because of taking magic potion?" Leonard's face darkened, and he really didn't want to talk about this topic. "What better way do I have to deal with Zangwill? Where you are is your best helper. Besides that, do you want to seek revenge on a sequence 4 night watchman alone?" "Ahem, I just want to ask. Don't dream, old man, you are so ruthless. Don't blame me for not reminding you. When you notice Zangwill, 008 will also notice you." "I understand." The next day, Leonard got up and asked for half a day off, and went to the West District to find Klein. His ability alone is limited, and he needs a suitable helper. When Klein knew Leonard's intention, Klein asked him not to speak for the time being. After dealing with Zangwill and 008 in Tingen last time, Klein has mastered some corresponding extraordinary knowledge. Without the protection of secrecy, every word he and Leonard said may be known to 008. It is impossible to make plans in advance. It is difficult for them to hide 008's ability. "Let's go to St. Samuel Church to discuss the relevant matters." Klein and Leonard took a carriage back to St. Samuel Church. The two of them directly explained the matter about Zangwill to the Archbishop guarding the church, Anthony Stevenson. Archbishop Anthony understood and led them to a prayer room, indicating that they could speak freely. "It's like this. I heard from a friend that Zangwill had a relationship with Prince Adesic, and even secretly arranged coincidences for Prince Adesic many times." Leonard told all the information he heard from Asta. "It must be him." Klein suddenly had a spiritual premonition. "Prince Adesic is a member of the royal family. If there is no evidence, you can't do anything casually," Archbishop Anthony reminded them. Leonard volunteered. "I want to contact Prince Adesic personally and find Zangwill. This is very dangerous." Klein disagreed with Leonard's risky behavior. 008's ability to arrange coincidences is very terrible, and he can even use such a dirty trick as stomachache. Someone has to go and solve this matter. I am a member of the Red Gloves team. The more dangerous it is, the more I have to face the challenge head-on. But Klein wanted to persuade him a few more times, but was stopped by Archbishop Anthony. He looked at Leonard with admiration, and then slowly said,
Since the church has sealed 008 before, it naturally knows how to avoid its prying. If it wants to arrange a script for a person, it also needs to meet certain prerequisites, and it can't do it as it pleases.
Queen's Royal Manor. Prince Adesic wanted to spend some time with his beloved girl in bed, but was interrupted by a knock on the door. He angrily lifted a corner of the quilt, took another look at the girl who was still sleeping, his expression softened, and his movements became much gentler. He got up from the bed, put on his clothes and opened the door. After walking a little further, his face suddenly became gloomy again, and he shouted, "What happened?" "St. Samuel Church sent a clergyman, saying that they have something to ask your highness." "What are they doing here?" "They didn't say it clearly, but they just asked to see your highness." Adesic went downstairs and came to the hall to meet the clergyman from St. Samuel Church, who was unexpectedly young. There were 3 clergymen in total, 2 of whom were very young and looked to be in their 20s, and the other was a little older. After a brief introduction, Adesic knew that the 2 young clergymen in front of him were named Leonard and Klein. "We are here mainly to inquire about a series of coincidences that happened near Prince Adesic some time ago. It is inevitable that there will be some coincidences in life. Is there any problem with this? We suspect that this coincidence is not simple, but is arranged by humans." Adesic frowned slightly. He has been troubled by this problem recently, especially with Baron Hasta Campbell. He encountered a series of coincidences, which led to his inability to meet him. If it was arranged by humans, wouldn't Baron Hasta Campbell be a big suspect? In order to avoid seeing him, he deliberately created a series of coincidences? Thinking of this, Adesic told the things that happened during this period one by one, and emphasized the matter of Hasta. "Instead of checking me, you should interrogate Baron Hasta Campbell. We won't let go of any suspicious place." Leonard explained with a smile, then looked around and said, "I heard that Prince Adesic likes an ordinary girl recently. Can we meet her?" "This is my private matter, you are meddling too much." Adesic was no longer as good-tempered as before, and he looked very irritable. Facing the oppression of a prince's aura, Leonard and Klein didn't take it seriously. "We seriously suspect that the girl is a witch, a cultist of the witch sect." The person who said this righteous words was Leonard. Looking at the confused Prince Adesic in front of him, he felt a sense of sympathy. At the beginning, he was also bewitched by a witch. It was really embarrassing to think about it. "Who allowed you to slander her? None of you are qualified to see her." Adesic completely tore off his face and shouted loudly, "Send the guests away." "Quiet." Leonard used his extraordinary ability, and Klein and a clergyman on the other side had already forced their way upstairs. Such behavior seems a bit arrogant, but the status of the Church of the Goddess of Night in the Kingdom of Loen has always been very domineering. In this regard, even the Church of the Storm cannot compare. Clang! It was the sound of glass shattering upstairs. Soon, Klein hurried downstairs and said in a deep voice, "The girl was taken away and left through the window." Leonard laughed and said, "Prince Adesic, it seems that the ordinary girl you like is not ordinary at all." Adesic fell on the sofa, covering his cheeks with both hands, painful and helpless. "Put away your overflowing emotions. Do you believe in the loyalty of a witch to love?" "No, she and I are truly in love, you won't understand." "Okay, you're true love, but I don't understand." Leonard felt absurd and pathetic, and ignored the deeply in love Prince Adesic. They were ready to close the net. Since they chose to confront Prince Adesic directly, there were naturally more than 3 people coming. Some people had been lying in ambush around, waiting for Ince Zangwill to appear. Beside the stream, in the small house, the sun had already sprinkled into the windowsill, and the diary on the desk had a few more paragraphs. "Strange, is something happening today? But everything seems very normal, calm, without any surprises. Is it an illusion? It's still very strange. Is there something happening quietly that I don't know about?" Ince Zangwill was also very confused, but even if he thought about it for a lifetime, he couldn't figure out what happened. Could it be secret? It's secret. Someone is secretly spying on me. This is the method of the Church of the Night specifically targeting me. Seeing this, Ince Zangwill could no longer remain calm, and he really wanted to curse. If he had not been stopped by the White Saint, he would have left Backland by now. How could he have attracted the attention of the Church of the Goddess of Night? At this moment, he didn't care what happened. He put away 008, took his diary and prepared to leave here, then went to the train station and quietly left Backland. As soon as he left, someone found the Creek hut. Compared to Ince Zangwill, who could still escape, Panashe's whereabouts had been discovered. He was also carrying an adult girl, who was seriously injured and could not escape too far. The girl did not want to escape, but said sarcastically, "Haha, will you have this day too?" Pa. Panashe slapped the girl in the face and said viciously, "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have ended up like this today." If she hadn't spied on Baron Hasta Campbell, she wouldn't have been seriously injured and wouldn't have been chased by a group of red gloves who were less powerful than her. "This is the punishment you deserve." The girl's cheeks were slapped red, and blood was slightly flowing from the corners of her mouth, but her tone was still sharp. When the Black Saint and the White Saint didn't show up, Panashe knew that she was abandoned. The saints would no longer confront the church staff directly for her, but would take this opportunity to hide their whereabouts so as not to be found by the church staff. Panashe looked at the dense crowd not far away and said fiercely, "Then let more people be buried with me." She let go of the girl and rushed directly into the dense crowd, and began to spread the terrifying disease with the help of Backlund's haze. In order to make the disease more severe, she did not hesitate to use her own blood to increase the effect and range of the disease, completely giving up the possibility of her own survival, regardless of the Edge of Queens, all the way across the West District, the South Bridge District, and the Dock District. She did not stop her escape until her blood was almost drained and her spiritual power was exhausted. She looked back at the direction she came from. A large area of pale green mixed with a hint of red haze, and a smug smile appeared on her face. When a sequence 4 despair witch is willing to sacrifice herself, how much pain and despair can she cause to ordinary people? If the church beyonders had not surrounded her, it would only take a while for the despair potion in her body to be completely digested. Because at this moment, she is also very desperate, perfectly matching the conditions of playing the despair witch. She will die today, but more people will also be buried with her. She wants to let those church members who are chasing them like hyenas know that they should not force a demigod into a desperate situation casually. It was also in the dock area. In a secret room, Mr. A looked at the abnormal haze in the sky and felt all kinds of sadness, pain, despair and other negative emotions from the dock area. This is the best nourishment for their Lord's coming. The last time Linnaeus, who was the carrier, was killed, he took away the divinity left by the Lord and placed this divinity in the chaotic and desperate dock area, allowing it to absorb all kinds of negative emotions and continue to grow and complete itself. It has always been slow, but today, the process has obviously accelerated by more than 10 times. Mr. A was puzzled by this. He had obviously ended his cooperation with the witch cult, but Panashe chose to use her life to fulfill their Lord's coming. Who is the Lord's loyal believer? But it is undeniable that Panatia, the desperate witch, used her sacrifice to greatly help the Aurora Society's great cause, and also attracted all attention, buying enough time for their Lord's coming. Has the Lord seen through all this long ago, so he let himself end the cooperation with the witch cult? Mr. A trembled all over and hurried to the basement, knelt in front of the Lord's statue and worshipped devoutly. Archbishop Anthony, who was in charge of St. Samuel's Church, was also confused. It was clear that their main target today was Ince Zangwill, and they did not desperately chase after the Witch of Despair, who would definitely have a chance to take people away. But she suddenly chose to sacrifice herself, and used her own blood to set off a widespread disease disaster. When did the witches of the witch cult become so desperate to die? Or did the Witch of Despair use her life to cover up Ince Zangwill? Archbishop Anthony couldn't figure out how Ince Zangwill had such great charm. In order to solve this sudden disaster, he asked someone to notify the Archbishop of the Holy Wind Church to take charge of the aftermath. When the Holy Wind blows through, all the disease haze will be purified. But in this process, many people will die. Queens, where the Backlund smog first started. Asta, who was sitting in the study rushing to write some dark fairy tales for Sharon, looked at the unusual haze passing by the window, put down the pen in his hand, walked to the window and started to observe. Backlund's great smog incident still came, even if Mr. A did not cooperate with the witch sect, this day also came. Moreover, the color of the smog was light green with hints of blood, making it look even more serious than the smog that happened in the original work. This means that more people will die in Backlund this time, especially those at the bottom who work hard. They have been working in factories for many years, and most of them already suffer from some diseases. They can only rely on their young bodies to survive. After this wave of diseases, even if they survive,
they will basically have to spend the rest of their lives in bed. Although the nobles living in Queens were also eroded by the smog, the church clergy responded quickly and provided various blessings to quickly eliminate the smog in various parts of Queens. After watching for a while, Hasta closed the door and window, walked out of the study and went to the next door to pick up a Shara, who looked a little strange.
It seemed to be afraid of what was happening outside. It curled up in Hasta's arms for a long time before starting to meow softly.
"Don't worry, things will be over soon. I'll prepare your favorite dried fish for you tonight."
Hasta comforted Azishara for a few words, took it downstairs, and called butler Neil to prevent his public appearance outside from affecting his health. Hasta sat on the sofa holding Azishara and asked casually, "Did something happen outside?" "It seems something happened at the royal estate. Many church clergy came from the church. That Prince Edsac? It seems to be him. I'm not sure about this yet, so I'll send someone to find out." Butler Neil thought there was some conflict between his baron and Prince Edsac, and wanted to take this opportunity to laugh. "No, it's a bit chaotic outside today. Please tell everyone at home to stay away from home to avoid accidents." "Okay." Asta explained a few words and asked Butler Neil to go down and do his work.
In Earl Hall's villa, Audrey also saw the gradual haze in the sky in the garden of her villa.
She had never seen the light green mist mixed with red threads, and she looked at it very seriously with Susie.
It wasn't until the people at home hurriedly led her and Susie back to the villa, and closed all the doors and windows, and invited a church clergy to sprinkle holy water around the villa and recite blessings, that Audrey realized that today was a bit abnormal. Something big must be happening outside.
She wanted to go to Earl Hall to inquire, but Earl Hall was not at home at this time, so she could only stay at home with Countess Hall, who was also a little uneasy. It was not until after 9 o'clock in the evening that Earl Hall returned home, accompanied by a priest from St. Samuel's Church.
Audrey finally couldn't restrain her curiosity and asked, "Did something big happen outside today?"
"Well, a lot of things did happen." Earl Hall took a sip of hot tea before beginning to answer Audrey's questions. "The Prince Edsac who once pursued you suddenly fell in love with a witch. What happened today was caused by the cultists of the witch sect." Audrey had a bad feeling in her heart. Did something happen? "A disease, or a plague, will spread in Backland." Earl Hall said this in a very serious tone, and warned, "During this period, you can stay at home with peace of mind, and you are never allowed to go out secretly." Countess Hall worried. "Is it really that serious? Maybe it will be more serious than imagined." After eating, Audrey silently returned to her room, called Susie, closed the door, and then told Susie to go to Earl Hall's study to inquire about it. At around 11 o'clock, Audrey, who was about to fall asleep, was woken up by Susie's voice. "Audrey, wake up, something big has happened." Audrey rubbed her groggy eyes, regained her energy a little, and then looked in the direction of Susie. "Susie, what's wrong?" "Your father, Earl Hall, just went out overnight. I heard someone mentioned that Duke Negan was assassinated tonight. The specific circumstances are unclear." After Susie finished speaking, she shook her head and said, "Audrey, who is Duke Negan?" Audrey had completely woken up. She didn't expect that the turmoil during the day had just begun, and that someone would be so bold as to assassinate Duke Negan. Then isn't Earl Hall possibly in danger? Audrey got out of bed and put on a simple coat, opened the door and went to Countess Hall's room. Sure enough, her mother was so worried that she couldn't sleep. In the small house where 4C and Zio lived, they shared a room and slept on the same bed tonight. When the unusual haze appeared during the day, the two of them realized something was wrong. They quickly closed the doors and windows of their home and stuffed their noses with cotton to prevent them from absorbing the penetrating fog. Fortunately, they were well prepared and responded promptly without suffering any damage, except for a few slight coughs. The family of 4 who lived next door to them, including 2 children, had already experienced this unusual haze. It took less than 3 hours from the time they started coughing up blood to the time they fell to the ground and convulsed and died. On the street, the week-old people who were walking collapsed directly to the ground and died silently. They looked outside through the cracks in the window. There were people lying in many places on the street. Some had turned into cold corpses, some were still twitching, and some were just weak and fell to the ground, shouting for help. But no one could save them, and they could only wait for death to come slowly. It was not until a gust of wind blew across the sky and cleared the ominous haze that Furs and Zio breathed a sigh of relief. Such a big thing happened, and they saw so many people die with their own eyes. They were so scared that they dared not sleep alone. Shoo, I always feel that Backland is very dangerous recently. Should we find an opportunity to leave here temporarily? Furs suggested. No, I have something to deal with in Backland. No matter how dangerous it is, I will not leave Backland until I have done what I want to do. Okay. Furs did not persuade her anymore. She was a writer and it didn't matter where she lived. What happened in Backland recently made her feel more and more dangerous. Furs, if you want to leave Backland, you can follow Mr. Hasta. I heard from Grellant that he might go to South Wales. Forget it, I'd better stay in Backland to accompany you. I can't let you take risks alone. Woo, Furs, I'm so touched. From now on, you will prepare the meals, and I will only eat them. Damn it, give me back my touch. In the villa of Duke Negan, Greg was busy deploying the cordon to prevent the assassin from taking advantage of it again. If he hadn't learned the relevant information from Hasta in advance, this time, Duke Negan would definitely die in a very shameful way in a woman's bed. At this time, Earl Hall, who had just arrived here, heard a scream from the second floor, and his heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly followed the servant to the second floor. Before he saw Duke Negan, he saw Greg, who was angry and sad. He suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Where is Duke Negan? He was assassinated by his trusted secretary, Lockhart Siakam. Someone whispered about what happened just now. Duke Negan, who had successfully avoided an assassination and was only seriously injured, returned to his villa to recuperate. While Greg was arranging people outside to set up defenses, the secretary who had always been trusted by Duke Negan suddenly took advantage of everyone's carelessness and assassinated Duke Negan, who was resting in bed. And after assassinating Duke Negan, he successfully escaped. This was an unexpected change. The secretary who had always been loyal to Duke Negan would actually attack Duke Negan. Quote. Earl Hall sighed and remained silent. Too many things have happened recently, as if some force is secretly targeting the kingdom of Loen. Not only did the capital Backland have an accident, but an armored fleet that was on a mission at sea some time ago suddenly encountered a group of pirates. Not only did they fail to repel the pirates, but they were defeated by the pirates, and even an armored ship was taken away by the pirates. And there are things in the southern continent, none of which can make people worry. At the train station, Ince Zangwill, who had been hiding all the way, was preparing to take the train away from Backland. But at this time, he suddenly found that there was a woman in a black dress sitting next to him. There was no sound of her arrival, and no one on the train knew about her arrival. Ince Zangwill asked nervously, "Who are you?" "Panatia is dead. You need to stay in Backland to clean up her mess. If you want to leave, wait until after the new year." "Are you the mysterious Black Saint?" Ince Zangwill smiled bitterly. He knew that he could not leave Backland tonight, so he could only obey the other party's arrangement. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Tonight was very long in Backland, so long that many people could not see the red sun dispelling the darkness. The snow began to fall again, more quickly than before, and soon the street was covered with a light white quilt. The homeless people who had trouble sleeping were disturbed by the snow and lost all sleep. They got up to find a warm place to live. After searching on the dark street for a while, I was attracted by the light of the fire. Someone, and quite a few of them, were carrying firewood. In the open space, a bonfire began to rise, and on top of the fire were corpses. Many people died on the streets during the day, and some people took advantage of the cold snowy night to burn their bodies overnight to avoid the spread of the terrible plague. This is a real case that happened in many remote and small places, and it provides valuable guidance for them living in Backland. Only by purifying corpses with flames can the spread of plague be effectively avoided. Although the official reason given for what happened today is that the smog contained excessive amounts of toxic elements, which caused many people to become sick and die. The general public, who originally had a negative attitude towards official reports, simply could not accept that the cause of death was caused by environmental problems. They were more inclined to believe that it was a type of influenza or plague that had begun to spread in Backland. The source of influenza and plague is the homeless people who come to Backland from other places. It was they who brought the plague that spread misfortune to Backland. When the homeless people who didn't know anything wanted to borrow some light from the fire to keep warm, they were thrown into the burning pyre by the people nearby. This is not an isolated case. Some areas have begun to hunt down homeless vagrants, treating them as the source of the plague, and burning them at the stake. Some more extreme people have spread their targets to animals such as stray cats and stray dogs, believing that they are also symbols of uncleanness. Once the fire is ignited from everywhere in Backland, it is difficult to extinguish it. The Queen's District late at night was not much different from usual. The news of Duke Negan's death did not spread throughout the aristocratic circle for a while.
But Hastur still knew. It was Greco who sent someone to inform him and also invited him to the villa where Duke Negan was staying.
At 3 or 4 o'clock in the night, Hastur still accompanied Greco to deal with some matters surrounding Duke Negan's death. Grec, who was temporarily free, took Hastur to the study and closed the door.
With a face full of exhaustion but full of hatred, he said, "Hasta, I want to know who is assassinating my father in the dark. You must know who it is. Tell me, we are good friends, aren't we?"
Hastur sighed and was silent for a while before saying, "That is not an organization that is easy to mess with. Once you say its name, it will bring unfortunate disasters to you." Greco forced a smile and said, "Hasta, you should also understand my temper. If I were afraid, I would not insist on asking you this question tonight. Grec, I do understand your character, but you don't understand the horror of that organization. If you believe me, when the time is right, I will tell you the answer. This is out of concern for my good friend." Hastur still did not choose to tell the truth about Grec. Grec had no secret authority. Once he learned about the Twilight Hermits, Adam also learned about his existence. Maybe Adam didn't care about this little flame of revenge, but there was no guarantee that no one would want to extinguish this flame to prevent any accidents from happening. Because Greg will inherit the title of Duke Negan, and with the help of his uncle, he will soon become another Duke Negan in the future. The Twilight Hermit chose to kill Duke Negan because Duke Negan was in the way and could affect the tide of the times. Hastur doesn't want Greg to become the second Duke Negan. Hasta. Greco finally endured it, put his hand to cover his cheek, and said painfully, "Hasta, will you help me take revenge on that organization?" Meeting. Okay. The person who assassinated my father tonight was his always trusted secretary Lockhart Siakam. Can you help me find him? Can. Hastur agreed to this request. He had already thought about throwing Lockhart Siakam's head at Greco's feet before leaving Backland. Hasta, I hope you will not betray my trust. I can no longer trust others, including my uncle.
Greg whispered, stood up and left the study. Hastur was sitting alone on the sofa in the study, looking at the open door, with a similarly complicated mood.
He also did not expect that Duke Negan would eventually die under the assassination of the Twilight Hermits. In addition to Duke Negan's carelessness and underestimation of the enemy, there is also the Twilight Hermit who is willing to abandon his son. If the first assassination fails, the second assassination will be carried out immediately. Lockhart Siakam. Hastur read it twice and was about to get up and leave the study when Earl Hall walked in. I came here because I want to talk to you about something. Please take a seat. Earl Hall sat opposite Hastur and looked at him for a while before saying, although Duke Negan passed away unfortunately, your trip to South Wales has been decided. According to this situation, you will go to South Wales after the year. County, do you need any help? I lack some funds to use. Hastur bluntly stated that he needed some money. Although the money he had saved during this period was enough for his own expenses, who would think it was too much money? You can do as many things as you have money. The more of these things, the better. This is easy to handle. I can help you apply for a fee in front of the king, but the fee will not be too much. It should not exceed 100,000 gold pounds. 100,000 gold pounds? This is already a lot. Hastur sighed inwardly at Earl Hall's generosity, but said in his mouth, I will save some flowers. If it is not enough, I think the Grand Duke of Southwell will also support me a little. That's true. You are going to South Wales this time to help him share the pressure. If you have any needs, he should indeed satisfy you. After talking about this matter, Earl Hall mentioned what happened today, including the assassination of Duke Negan. The kingdom is currently on the cusp of a storm. There are always some people who hope that the kingdom will become more chaotic. I think what happened today is all about people with well-intentioned intentions to shake the foundation of the kingdom. Well, your thoughts are similar to mine, but do you really think so? Earl Hall seemed to have seen through something, and seemed to be testing something. The death of Duke Negan may also involve the dispute between the old and the new parties of the aristocracy. Hasta could only come up with a sharper point of view to satisfy Earl Hall's speculation. Earl Hall was silent for a while and then said, "Then do you think I am a new party or an old party?" "New party." Asta gave his answer without hesitation. Although Earl Hall is very close to Duke Negan, his series of actions are more in line with the new party's style. Duke Negan also knows this very well, but his Negan family is in danger of turning around, and can only make up for it through means, but cannot change its position. "Our king is also a new party." Asta gave another more weighty sentence. Earl Hall shook his head and smiled. "No, our king, he is a party of his own."
Hasta just smiled and said nothing. Of course he knew that the king was the king and the party was the party, but sometimes people can't appear too smart, especially when there are only two people getting along.
To him, there was no difference between the new party and the old party, as long as Earl Hall did not ask about the Twilight Hermits. The snow was falling harder and harder outside, and the streets were covered with a 2-finger-thick layer of snow, but the burning fire was also getting bigger and bigger. It wasn't until dawn that the flames on the bonfire gradually extinguished, leaving only curls of light smoke rushing into the sky along with the smoke clouds discharged from the chimneys. No matter what happened yesterday, the factories that should be operating today are still operating, and those who can work are going to work. As for how many people have been lost overnight, no one will ask this question, because even if they ask, they can't count clearly. The focus of Backlund's attention today is the assassination of Duke Negan last night. The king was furious, and the prime minister also expressed his determination to severely punish the murderer. On this day, the front-page news of all newspapers in Backlund was about this incident, as well as the arrest warrant for the murderer of Duke Negan. The reward offered by the Negan family alone is worth 100,000 gold pounds. This is a huge wealth, and not only ordinary people are excited, but also many extraordinary people are eager to try it. Because as long as you provide valuable clues, you can receive huge rewards ranging from hundreds to thousands of gold pounds. Zio and 4C were very excited, especially Zio, who soon became full of energy and started going out to do errands. Leonard and Klein, who have been working together to track down Ince Zangwill, are also very interested in this reward. If it weren't for the need to track down Ince Zangwill, Klein would have planned to go above the grey mist to divine relevant information, and he might also be able to earn hundreds of gold pounds from the pockets of the Negan family. It was already 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon when Hester left Duke Negan's villa. As soon as he came back, he took a bath and then went to bed to rest. When I woke up, it was already after 9 o'clock in the evening. He went downstairs to eat something, petted the kitten for a while, and then returned to the room under Azishera's reluctant eyes, lay on the bed, and entered the Palace of Stars. He is also very concerned about the whereabouts of Lockhart Siakam. There are only about 10 days left before the new year, and he strives to give a big gift to Greg before the new year. Earl Hall told him that he would leave for South Wales within 10 days of the year. In other words, there is not much time left for him to help deal with Lockhart Siakam. Twilight Hermits, this time I will kill one of your members first and use his head to tell you something. There is a price to pay for influencing the tide of the times. Lockhart Siakam, the secretary who is deeply trusted by Duke Negan, has a complicated background. He is not only a powerful Beyonder, but also happens to be on the same path as himself. He is a Sequence 5 Chaos Mentor. These intelligences were provided by Greg to help Asta find Lockhart faster. Under the prying of fate, Lockhart's traces were nowhere to be hidden, and Asta soon saw his hiding place. A manor, large and luxurious, not smaller than the manor of Duke Negan's family. At this moment, he seemed very satisfied with his masterpiece, drinking a little wine leisurely, not afraid of being tracked here. Royal Manor. After Asta recognized the origin and specific location of the manor, he withdrew his eyes from spying on fate. It was not surprising that Lockhart was hiding in the manor of the royal family. Because the king of the Kingdom of Lowen was cooperating with the Twilight Hermits, maybe the assassination of Duke Negan was also tacitly approved by the king, or he took the initiative to propose to use the hands of the Twilight Hermits to help him clear the target. In the new era, a powerful and old noble like Duke Negan is indeed a very troublesome existence. This Lockhart is an extraordinary person in the Black Emperor path. Maybe he is only loyal to the king. He stayed with Duke Negan at the beginning just to monitor his every move. Another reason to oppose George III becoming the Black Emperor. Asta murmured and cast his eyes on the star where Adam was. Adam still guarded his chapel and had no intention of going out, which made Asta's hope that he would convene the Twilight Hermit meeting come to nothing. Then he turned slightly and looked at the light spot where the real creator chose Mr. A. At this moment, Mr. A knelt in front of the hanged man statue. In front of him, there was a red copper coffin, and the divine fluctuations were faintly coming from it. The divinity extracted from Lenivus. The breath of the new life became more and more intense, and it was possible to be born into the world at any time. It should be during this period that the desperate haze event caused by the desperate witch gave it a huge amount of nourishment. Can I turn this unborn son of the evil god into my believer? Asta suddenly had such an idea in his mind. In his observation, although the divine power in the coffin came from the real creator, it had not yet begun to give birth to its own consciousness, and the consciousness of the real creator had not yet fallen on it. This means that at this moment it is just an unconscious puppet with powerful power. If it is allowed to accept the baptism of the power of the stars from this time, is it possible for it to become a believer of the stars? But in this way, it will inevitably attract the attention of the real creator. Although he has the secret authority, he may not be able to hide this matter from the real creator. After all, his sequence is still a bit low. If he is already a sequence 2 angel, then with the power of the Hall of Stars, he should be able to hide from the prying of the real creator. It's not that there is no way to solve it. Naturally, his secret authority cannot be hidden from the real creator, but if the goddess of night knows what he is hiding, even if the real creator knows what he is hiding, he will not tear his face and force a peeping. Because the real creator and Adam are now pretending to be weak, one pretending to be crazy, and the other pretending to be paranoid, so as to relax the vigilance of the three gods of eternal sun, storm, knowledge and wisdom. This is exactly what Hasta can use. Let Mr. A move the coffin containing the divine power to the vicinity of St. Samuel Church, and then use the power of the Hall of Stars to baptize the new life with the stars. Maybe it can really make it completely loyal to the stars at birth and become a true believer of the stars. The more Hasta thought about it, the more he felt that this matter was feasible. The only risk he had to pay was Mr. A. It was a great challenge to transport the coffin containing the divine power of the real creator to the vicinity of St. Samuel Church. If he was not careful, Mr. A would die for this plan. But with Mr. A's madness, he would not refuse such a challenge. Hasta thought for a while and decided to wait. He would take a peek at the relevant fate first, and he would wait until he left Backland before taking action. Even if something unexpected really happened, it would have nothing to do with him who was far away in South Wales. Retracting his gaze, Hasta scanned the bright stars as usual, and found nothing unusual. He reached out to summon the fourth chain of order, gently stroked the slightly warm chain, and began to think about which appropriate rule to make. The first chain of order is the foundation of order, which includes the path of judgment, allowing him to have the ability to make rules. The second chain of order is fate, which is the eyes that peek into fate. The third chain of order is secret, belonging to the path of night. This time, he wants to extend his tentacles into the extraordinary realm where the real creator and Adam are. The extraordinary paths that can be chosen are the audience where Adam is, the secret praying person of the real creator, the sailor of the storm, the omniscience of knowledge, and the path of the sun. Hasta excluded the path where the real creator is from the beginning, because the extraordinary ability of this path is not of much use to him. Aurora Society Beyonders like Mr. A, who started to come into contact with everything related to the true creator from the time they became Sequence 9 secret prayers, are easily contaminated by the true creator. The shepherds, the most powerful among the demigods, are also dispensable to Hasta. They herd the souls of extraordinary people to obtain related extraordinary abilities, and their behavior at this moment is equivalent to a luxurious and enhanced version of the shepherd, people. Hasta also doesn't like the two paths of storm and knowledge very much. In the end, his only goals were the audience path and the sun path. The audience is the sun of the version, and before it is weakened, it is definitely the best choice. It just so happened that he met the Twilight Hermit again. This extraordinary path really suited his current needs. The future of the sun path is promising, and choosing it may usher in a comeback in the later stages. Especially when the Superstar Lord gradually swallows up the power and authority of the eternal blazing sun. If we can catch up, it's hard to say whose hands the sun will be in. Moreover, the sun is also one of the stars, which can also be regarded as part of his authority. Hasta thought again and chose the sun path. Night first, then sun, a very balanced choice. After thinking about the idea, the next step is to formulate descriptive words for the relevant rules. There is no need to rush this, you can take your time. Backlund's story about Duke Negan's assassination is still fermenting. But even though many Beyonders were searching in secret, they couldn't find any trace of Lockhart. Zio sighed repeatedly as she walked on the streets of Queens. In order to get the huge bounty, she came to Queens to look for relevant clues, but she couldn't find anything. It was so expensive here that she couldn't even bear to eat lunch here. She could only bring some snacks with her so that she could have a big meal when she went back in the evening. Just when she was feeling depressed, a carriage stopped in front of her. She subconsciously looked up and quickly recognized the origin of the carriage. "Get in the car." Zio nodded, then got on the carriage, opened the carriage curtain and walked in. The person inside was indeed Mr. Hasta. "Mr. Hasta, I didn't expect to meet you here. I live around here." Quinn felt that her first sentence was stupid. "Are you here for the Negan family's huge bounty? Well, Mr. Hasta, would you like to get involved too?" Zio cheered up again. She was happy to find a partner. "I know some clues, but it's just not easy to investigate." "Clue?" Zio's eyes suddenly lit up. The huge reward offered by the Negan family, even for just one useful clue, could be worth hundreds of gold pounds. If the assassin can be found, there will be a more generous reward. "Mr. Hasta, do you want to cooperate with me?" Zio quickly corrected his posture. "That's right. I'll provide you with a piece of information and you'll be responsible for investigating it. If the information is true, we can share the bounty equally." No, it's enough for me to take 30% of the bounty." Zio was very self-aware and knew that Mr. Hasta in front of her was specifically giving her a business deal. Otherwise, he could hire someone else to do it rather than through cooperation. "No, just split it equally, and the reward should be consistent with the risk." "Is this task difficult?" Zio's heart skipped a beat and she felt a little scared. "This is the specific information about the assassin. You can read it first and then decide whether to cooperate with me." Hasta handed Hugh the internal information from Greco. "This information comes from MI9 and is private information. It is basically impossible for wild extraordinary people like Zio to see it. Many people only think about the huge bounty given by the Negan family, but they don't know how strong the assassin is." Sequence 5. Zio exclaimed when she saw the key information. It would probably only take one finger for such a being to crush her to death, but she still had to read all the information. Even if she refuses this cooperation, she can sell it for a good price just based on the content of this document. After reading and remembering it, Zio's face changed slightly and his tone was awkward. "Mr. Hasta, the other party is a strong man in Sequence 5. If the mission is too dangerous, I can't risk my life. Huge gold pounds are indeed tempting, but it also depends on whether you have the life to enjoy this wealth. The task is not too difficult, and you don't even need to appear in person." "Really?" Zio's eyes lit up again. "I suspect that the assassin is hiding in a royal manor. All you need to do is spread the news and trigger the church to search the royal manor." "I'm good at this. Isn't it just spreading news and rumors, professional counterpart?" Shu was really moved. She could achieve this goal as long as she carefully concealed her whereabouts and then pretended to reveal the news casually. No, she can sell this news and the contents of that information multiple times, so that no matter whether it succeeds or not, she can get a hard-earned fee. When she spoke her mind, Hasta acknowledged her behavior and told her to be careful and not to rush. "Don't worry, I'm very good at disguising my identity." Zio smiled happily and confidently. Asta looked her up and down and understood why it was easier to draw on white paper. Drink Augustus, the former Grand Duke of Southwell of the Kingdom of Lowen. He was stationed in Southwell County at the beginning, and any pirate who dared to land and rob was strangled by him with thunder. In order to set an example, he also ordered people to string the bodies of the pirates with wooden stakes and erect them on the coastline. Such iron-blooded behavior frightened all pirates and they dared not to go ashore and rob the fishermen's villages and towns on the coast. As time passed, the Grand Duke who guarded Southwell County today was not as iron-blooded as his predecessor. Instead, he only knew how to play and enjoy, which made the pirates rampant again. Many people, including some members of the royal family, had not seen the legendary former Grand Duke of Southwell for a long time. He had been living a secluded life in his manor and had not appeared in formal occasions for many years. "Let's go, the Grand Duke wants to see you." "Yes." Lockhart followed the attendant respectfully and went to the depths of the manor, a 5-story tower that did not look very impressive. Lockhart finally met the former Grand Duke of Southwell of the Kingdom of Rune, Drink Augustus. This is one of the strongest pillars behind the current king and has a great reputation. After assassinating Duke Negan, he fled here in a hurry to seek the protection of this Grand Duke. As long as he has the protection of this Grand Duke, he will be absolutely safe. At the first sight, Lockhart was secretly shocked. This Grand Duke did not look old. There were some silver threads in his black hair and no beard on his face, which made him look much younger. As the former Grand Duke of Southwell, his actual age is at least 67 years old. Few people know how old he is. "You did a good job on this matter. Thank you for the compliment, Grand Duke." Lockhart lowered his head. "You can stay here for the time being and leave after the storm is over." "Thank you for the protection, Grand Duke. What is the current situation in the kingdom?" Lockhart began to tell the Grand Duke, who lived in seclusion, about the current situation in the Kingdom of Rune. Today, someone sent a secret message to the Holy Wind Church, saying that the whereabouts of the assassin who assassinated Duke Negan were discovered. The current hiding place is in the suburban manor of Grand Duke Drink Augustus. The source of this information is the spies of the Storm Church's wild extraordinary people scattered in Backland. Most people have long forgotten the existence of Grand Duke Drink Augustus, so the credibility of this information is extremely high. But this matter is very tricky. Grand Duke Drink Augustus himself is powerful and a powerful extraordinary person, and behind him stands the Lowen royal family. If it is really this Grand Duke who provides shelter for the assassin, it is hard not to think that the assassination of Duke Negan was at the behest of the king. This is a major event that is enough to split the royal family and the great nobles. Once the two are at odds, the situation in the Lowen kingdom will be several times more serious than it is now. Investigate, investigate. What if it causes unrest? That only shows the incompetence of the Lowen royal family. Do I need to say hello to the king? No, just take people to investigate. The head of the Holy Wind Church quickly made a decision. Duke Negan was a believer of the storm. Now that he was assassinated, it was necessary for the Storm Church to solve this matter. Just as the people of the Storm Church began to act, the Church of the Goddess of Night and the Church of Steam and Machinery also sent people to go. In terms of curbing the power of the Lowen royal family, their position has always been consistent. At 9 o'clock in the evening, people from the three major churches had surrounded the suburban manor of the former Grand Duke of Southwell. Faced with the aggressive people from the three major churches, even the reclusive drinker Augustus had to personally deal with this matter. We received a report that Lockhart Siakam, the criminal who assassinated Duke Negan a few days ago, had been in this manor. Butler, has anyone visited our manor recently? No? It seems that this should be a misunderstanding. Drink Augustus lowered his posture a little. Although his strength was stronger than the clergy leading the team tonight, he still had to succumb to the power of the three major Orthodox churches. It's easy for a person to lie, but it's difficult for a group of people to hide the truth. The Grand Duke should think it over before answering this question. Faced with such ruthless words, Drinker Augustus' face darkened slightly, and he looked at his butler and said unhappily, "Are you doing something shameful without telling me?" The butler trembled, then knelt on the ground, slapping his mouth, crying and begging, "That's the case, but I didn't know at that time that Lockhart Siakam was the criminal who assassinated Duke Negan. For the sake of our good personal relationship, I took him into rest in the manor for one night. The next day, he had left the manor and disappeared. Damn it! How dare you do these little tricks behind my back?" The angry drinker Augustus kicked the butler who was kneeling on the ground and smashed a wooden table. He said with anger, "He made a mistake, so he should be judged by the law. You can take him away for investigation now." "We will." The person in charge of tonight's operation took a deep look at Drinker Augustus, who was still angry, and then ordered someone to bring the butler with him. At the same time, he sent people to search the manor, but did not find any trace of Lockhart Siakam. "Excuse me, we will leave now." After the three major Orthodox church members left, Drinker Augustus put away the anger on his face and his expression turned gloomy. Lockhart Siakam had only been in the manor for 2 or 3 days, and the three major churches received relevant news and successfully found this place. Who leaked the news? Could it be that there were spies from the three major churches hidden in his manor? Drinker Augustus swept his eyes over all the people working in the manor, and finally did nothing, but his face became even gloomier. Some of the three major church members who only caught a butler were not satisfied with the harvest tonight, and they all questioned that the former Grand Duke of Southwell was highly suspected of assassinating Duke Negan. The person in charge explained, "Of course I know he is lying, and he knows it himself, but he has already distanced himself from the matter and expressed his attitude, so we should give him some face to avoid escalating the matter. What should we do now? Take him back for interrogation, and then search the nearby area." In the forest outside the city, Lockhart had already sneaked out of the back door before the members of the Three Gods Church arrived at the manor. This was a long-prepared retreat, in order to avoid involving the Lowen royal family as much as possible. If he had not been useful, he would have been killed by Grand Duke Drink Augustus to eliminate future troubles. It seems that I need to live in the depths of the forest for a short period of time. Lockhart walked deeper into the dense forest to avoid being found by the members of the Three Gods Church. As long as he avoided this most stringent period, someone would arrange for him to leave Backland, and then he could live freely by changing his identity. Originally, he didn't have to take such a risk, but I don't know where Duke Negan got the news from, knowing that someone would assassinate him in the near future, so he set a trap to prevent the real killer who accepted the organization's mission from successfully completing the mission. Fortunately, Duke Negan was also seriously injured, and he did not doubt himself, which gave him a chance to make amends. For this reason, he could only give up the identity he had been operating for more than 10 years and become a wanted criminal. He still liked the big city of Backland very much, but unfortunately, he could no longer stay there. Just as Lockhart continued to go deeper into the dense forest, he suddenly had a premonition in his heart, and hurriedly rolled on the ground, and then hid behind a big tree. After hiding for a while, he did not find anything unusual. Did I feel wrong? Lockhart seemed to relax his vigilance and came out from behind the tree, but he had actually set up an ambush in the area around him, just waiting for someone to fall into the trap. But after waiting for more than 10 minutes, there was no other abnormality except the sound of wild birds in the deep mountains and old forests. He opened his spiritual vision and scanned around, and did not find anything unusual. Am I really too suspicious? Lockhart murmured, glanced at the crimson moon in the sky, and decided not to rush tonight, and find a place nearby to rest temporarily. He hid on the branch of a big tree, half leaning against the trunk, holding a 2-finger-wide knife in his left hand, and a button-like object in the palm of his right hand. Even if he didn't find anything unusual, he remained alert. In the extraordinary world, the reminders from his own spirituality are often the most accurate. He would not take risks easily. He closed his eyes and pretended to rest. After waiting for a few minutes, he suddenly felt a pressure. This was the pressure of the status. Lockhart hurriedly confused the space around him, and then activated the button object in the palm of his right hand. The whole person passed through the space out of thin air and left the original place. This is a precious extraordinary item used to save his life. Even he only has this one now. 700 or 800 meters away from here, Lockhart ran forward as soon as he landed. Although he didn't see the enemy, it didn't prevent him from sensing the danger. Run, leave this place quickly. Seek shelter from others, otherwise he will definitely die in the hands of the hunter behind him. Hurry and don't know where he is. Lockhart has no idea where he is. He is surrounded by dense forests, and the light of the crimson moon can be vaguely seen all around. In the deep and silent forest, the sounds of birds and beasts can be heard occasionally. Listening to these sounds, Lockhart's nervousness gradually eased a lot, and he gasped heavily. Although he has the physique of a barbarian, in recent years, he has been eating, drinking and having fun with Duke Negan, which has led to his physical fitness being far worse than when he was young. Shouldn't they catch up? Lockhart looked at the dark forest, and his heart trembled for no reason. A chill flowed through his internal organs to all parts of his body, and his hands and feet were cold. So far, he has not seen clearly who is hunting him, but the invisible pressure makes it difficult for him to breathe. The other party seems to be a cat playing with a mouse, admiring his funny appearance of running around. At this time, he really wished he was a traveler. If he were a traveler, he would have left the forest long ago, away from the hunter behind him. Unfortunately, he was not a traveler. Lockhart did not dare to stay in one place for too long, and soon continued to shuttle through the dense forest. Finally, he came to a pond. It should have been a beautiful scene in front of him, But he had a feeling of the end of fate. He will die here tonight. This pond is where his bones are buried. Lockhart did not run away again, but looked around and said loudly, "Come out, I know you are watching me in secret."
At this time, there was a slight tremor in the woods not far away. Lockhart's eyes lit up and threw the knife in his hand in that direction. At the same time, he distorted the space around that position and corrupted the land at the same time, trying to solve the lurking hunter in the dark in one fell swoop.
But in the end he found that it was an elk that died under his serial attacks. The real hunter had silently come behind him and pierced his heart with a sword. When he wanted to fight back, a terrible mental shock came from his mind, making him dizzy. Lockhart tried his best to distort the concept of the other party and himself, so that the other party and himself would bear half of the damage. But his extraordinary ability did not get the desired effect, but was invalidated. When he wanted to make the space around him chaotic to block the opponent's attack, the blood in his body was constantly absorbed, especially the pierced heart. The blood flowed out in streams, and soon his limbs were weak and he had no strength to resist.
Lockhart lay forward, his body squirming and struggling on the ground, and finally turned his head to look at the person who was chasing him tonight. The man was wearing blood-red armor and holding a golden sword in his hand. A blood-red vortex around him was still absorbing his blood.
What Lockhart cared about most was the black cloak behind this mysterious man. It was filled with the pressure from the Black Emperor's path and the oppressive aura of a high-ranking person. The blasphemous card of the Black Emperor. Lockhart wanted to shout out this sentence, but unfortunately, he no longer had the strength. When he missed the opportunity at the beginning, he had no chance of survival. The panicked elk that he had killed, just like him at this moment, lay on the ground and was slaughtered. When a golden sword light passed through his throat, Lockhart closed his eyes completely. Then another sword cut through Lockhart's body and took away his extraordinary characteristics. The pool reflected the crimson moon and the stars in the sky. It was beautiful in the quiet forest. The only thing that made people feel uncomfortable and uncoordinated was that there was a bloody headless corpse lying beside the pool. This was what the members of the Storm Church saw when they heard the movement in the forest and found this place. It has been confirmed that this is the body of Lockhart Siakam, who assassinated Duke Negan. He died here. Who killed him? Will it be Grand Duke Drinker Augustus? It won't be him. If he wants to do it, Lockhart will definitely not be able to leave the manor. The head and the extraordinary characteristics have been taken away. It should be his enemy who did it. Is the other party doing it for the huge bounty of the Negan family? After some discussion, they felt that this possibility was the greatest. At present, no one knows how many terrible extraordinary people are hiding in Backland. It is not impossible for an extraordinary person who can kill Lockhart Siakam to appear. 100,000 gold pounds. Even the crazy people of the Aurora Club will not be able to help but take action. If no one goes to the Negan family to claim the bounty, then consider it as the bounty of our operation this time. If someone goes to claim it, such a terrible extraordinary person must be recorded. But what if it is a powerful extraordinary person invited by the Negan family themselves? The scene fell into silence again for a while. If this is really the case, then the bounty of 100,000 gold pounds will be completely out of their reach. The royal family needs to explain this matter. Yes, they need to pay a certain price. The people of the Storm Church quickly regained their cheerful mood. After being busy for most of the day, they should get some hard work pay. Late at night, Greg couldn't sleep in the room. Suddenly, someone threw something into the window that was not closed tightly. He quickly turned on the light in the room and approached the object carefully. When he got closer, he saw clearly that it was a head. Lockhart Siakam's head. This man who was once his father's most trusted secretary and the murderer of his father, now only had a head in front of him. After the shock, there was joy, and he wanted to laugh out loud. But Greg clenched his fists and held back. He walked a little closer and stepped on the head with one foot after another, venting his anger. After venting his anger, the head could no longer see the specific appearance of Lockhart Siakam. It was bloody and some parts had become a pool of meat paste. Greg moved a chair and stepped on Lockhart Siakam's head with one foot, and his eyes looked at the dark night outside the window. Who helped him avenge his father's murder? He already had the answer in his heart. Hasta Campbell, his good friend. Although he had never seen Hasta take action, he always felt that Hasta was not simple and might have already embarked on the path of an extraordinary person. Last time, he promised himself that he would help him get revenge. Tonight, Lockhart Siakam's head appeared in his room. This was the opportunity that Hasta deliberately left for him to vent his hatred. Hasta, in this matter, my uncle is not as good to me as you. There was a hint of self-mockery at the corner of Greg's mouth. The Negan family seemed to have two different voices. He sat alone in the room until dawn, until the butler outside knocked on the door and called him, saying that someone from the Storm Church was visiting. Greg stood up from the chair, stretched his body, looked at the head on the ground with disgust, and then kicked the head with his foot and walked to the door. After opening the door, Greg kicked the head out of the railing under the butler's horrified eyes, drew an arc in the air, and fell to the lobby on the first floor. Clean it up. After Greg instructed the butler, he walked down to the first floor hall with bloody footprints. When he saw the members of the Storm Church for the first time, he smiled and said, "Are you here today to find this head?" "Sir Greg, Sorry, there are some things I don't want to make clear, but my father's death is also related to your incompetence." Greg directly blocked the questions that the members of the Storm Church might ask, and said, "I will donate 10,000 gold pounds to the Holy Wind Church in my personal name. As for the other rewards, I have paid them to the person who actually killed the assassin. We just didn't expect Sir Greg to know such a powerful person." After this incident, I realized one thing clearly. No matter how powerful you are, it is not as good as the power you can hold in your hands. We have investigated some clues about Duke Negan. The members of the Storm Church did not choose to conceal and told their actions last night one by one. When he heard the name of Grand Duke Drink Augustus, Greg didn't seem too excited. He just nodded and said, "Thank you for your hard work. I will donate another 10,000 gold pounds to the 3 major churches." The members of the Storm Church were stunned. They had known that the Negan family was rich, but the donation started at 10,000 gold pounds. It was really generous. Asta woke up from the bed near dusk. Last night, in order to solve the problem of Lockhart Siakam, he had to transform into a hunter and run all the way. In addition to using the war emblem, in order to suppress Lockhart's extraordinary ability, he also brought the Black Emperor's blasphemy card. Fortunately, the result was gratifying. Lockhart died in his own hands, and his Chaos Mentor extraordinary characteristics were also taken by himself. This was the best trophy last night. In order not to spend the night with a head, Asta threw Lockhart's head from the window into Greg's room at night. He believed that Greg would understand who gave him this gift and would clean up all the follow-ups for himself. If he guessed correctly, Greg would not contact him for a long time. This was a tacit understanding between good friends. Count Hall's house. A week had passed since the Backland smog incident, and Audrey finally got permission to go out. During this period, she also attended a tarot meeting, where Mr. Fool said that this was a disaster caused by a witch. Mr. Hanged Man said that many people died in the Backland smog incident this time, and the death of Duke Negan had a great impact on the Kingdom of Lowen. Even Miss Magician said that ordinary people living in Backland were miserable, especially the dock area, which was already poor and backward, and this time it was even more desperate. Only the nobles living in Queens and the West District escaped this disaster safely. And she, Audrey Hall, knew very little about this matter, because she could not leave the house, could not know what the outside world looked like, and did not know how many people died in this smog incident. Count Hall attached great importance to her protection and did not allow her to leave the house at all. Even when taking a walk in the back garden, she had to set a time to avoid being affected by the toxic smog that might remain in the air. Today, Count Hall allowed her to leave the house and go out to relax. She brought Susie with her, followed by 2 personal maids, and a few servants from Earl Hall's family a little further away. She was surprised to find that the shops on both sides of the street were still crowded with noble ladies and young ladies who came to choose goods. They had bright smiles on their faces and were not affected by the smog incident at all. As she continued to walk along King's Avenue, everything around her was no different from usual, and the so-called smog incident seemed to have never existed. After walking for a while, she was sure that everything here was the same as usual, and there was no difference. There was no scene of corpses lying on the street as described by Miss Magician, and people picking up branches and coal during the day and burning corpses at night in the falling snow. There was no panic, tension and danger as described by Mr. Hanged Man. Audrey always had a strong sense of separation, with the words of Miss Magician and Mr. Hanged Man on one side and the still prosperous and lively streets in front of her on the other. The smiles on people's faces cannot be faked.
The people seen on the street, their faces are really happy.
There were still many people along the street gathering in groups of 3 or 5 drinking tea and chatting, with brisk laughter and sweet smiles. Everything was beautiful. Is the impact of the smog incident really over? Or is it not as serious as Miss Magician and Mr. Hangman said? She really wanted to find someone to chat with and find out the real changes in Backland during this period. But Susie, her personal maid, and the servants who were responsible for protecting her were obviously not suitable people to chat with. She thought of Mr. Asta. She had not met Mr. Asta since the last time they parted. It was said that he was very busy now and was preparing to leave Backland.
Is it really okay to disturb them now? Audrey sighed slightly, and in the end she did not choose to disturb them. Instead, she chose a shop that looked relatively deserted and quiet, and ordered a cup of hot tea and some small desserts. She looked through the window and looked at the street outside.
Carriages passed through the road, and the horseshoes and the ground intertwined a patchwork of music. Do you want to go to the dock area mentioned by Miss Magician to take a look?
Audrey suddenly had such an idea in her mind. She had not really been to the dock area except when she went out to play by boat. She had the impression that there were many busy workers there, but she didn't know what it was like. But she obviously couldn't go there alone. She needed someone to accompany her, such as her elder brother Hibbert, or Earl Hall, Mr. Asta.
It's a bit annoying. Audrey pouted slightly, and before the personal maid spoke, she restored her elegant and dignified side. After more than 10 minutes, a familiar figure suddenly appeared outside the street. Mr. Asta was walking with a little black cat in his arms. Susie, go and call Mr. Asta for me. Audrey gave the task of chatting up Susie, who was lying on the ground in a daze. Woof, go, I believe you can do it. Susie got up, shook her golden hair, and then ran towards the door. At this time, a maid said, Susie is getting smarter now. Yes, because she is the unique Susie. Audrey was a little proud. This is an extraordinary golden retriever that she has cultivated. It will become a psychologist in the future. Soon, Susie brought Mr. Asta, who was holding a little black cat, to Audrey. Audrey stroked Susie's head to show encouragement. Ms. Audrey, good afternoon. Mr. Asta, good afternoon. Audrey asked the maid to arrange a seat for Mr. Asta opposite her. How come Miss Audrey has time to hang out today? I have been staying at home for this period of time and can only go out today. I didn't expect to meet Mr. Asta. I am really lucky. This is also my good luck. After the two exchanged a few more pleasantries, Audrey asked about the smog incident in Backland this time. Living in Queens and living in the dock area are two completely different lives. The impact of the smog incident on them is naturally different. Here, many aristocratic ladies and ladies can still happily go shopping and buy things every day. Occasionally they get together to have tea parties and talk about jewelry and dress styles. To them, the Great Smog Incident is more like a line of words in a newspaper, or a term mentioned by others in gossip exchanges. It is light and has no weight or anything worth thinking about deeply. Audrey was silent for a while, raised her bright eyes, and said softly, in Mr. Haster's opinion, am I also one of these noble ladies? This is an attribute you possess when you are born. It does not change based on someone else's thoughts. There is no need for you to deny it, because this is your daily life. Then can I see a different life? Of course you can. What we mean by broadening your horizons and observing more different lives is also a way to broaden your horizons. Mr. Haster knows a lot of things that I don't know. He seems to have experienced a lot of things. I'm just talking on paper. It's fine for chatting. After all, I haven't been to the dock area since the smog incident. Haster thought for a moment and then said, but I can imagine what is happening there, or what has happened in the past. Is this the benefit of reading more? No, this is because I knew what kind of place it was from the beginning, so I could guess what would happen to them when they encountered a major smog event based on the actual conditions there. Mr. Haster, I want to go to the dock area. Can you accompany me? If Earl Hall agrees to your going, I will be happy to be your guide. Audrey frowned slightly. It was not an easy task to persuade Earl Hall to agree to go to the dock area. Mr. Haster, are you worried about something? I'm just looking at this from the perspective of a father, Earl Hall. Audrey couldn't understand this sentence, and Asta didn't explain it. Audrey is now well protected, and she has no right to destroy the safety barrier that Earl Hall has built for her over the years. The current dock area is not a good place to be. Although there are church personnel there to help solve the problem, the actual situation is still very serious. The impact of the smog incident is not only the death of people, but also for those who are still alive but can no longer live well. The real disaster has just begun. Mr. Hasta, can't you take me to see him secretly? Cannot. Hasta ruthlessly rejected Audrey's small request, ignoring her annoyed look. Don't even think about taking Susie secretly. Count Hall will definitely send someone to watch you. Asta said another word, breaking Audrey's little thoughts at the moment. Mr. Hasta. Audrey slightly clenched her little fists hidden in her sleeves, waved them twice, and finally let out a little anger. The tea here is not bad. I want to continue taking Azishara shopping, so I'll excuse you now. Hasta was wise enough to leave at such a time. Audrey watched Hasta leave and snorted. Susie, you can't learn from Mr. Hasta to talk like this in the future, otherwise you will be beaten up by me. Woof. Susie looked confused and subconsciously moved to a position farther away from Audrey so as not to become a punching bag for Audrey's unhappiness. Even though it knew Audrey wasn't really angry, why should it take the risk? Stay away, wait until Audrey feels better, and then go home together. At night, after Earl Hall came back, Audrey, who had been thinking about it for a long time, took advantage of Earl Hall's good mood to propose that she wanted to take a look at the dock area. No, let's wait until after the new year. Earl Hall also refused ruthlessly and did not give her the slightest hope. The Chinese New Year is coming soon. You have to learn the etiquette and procedures of the coming-of-age ceremony. You can also practice dancing. I will hire some more teachers for you in other aspects. Earl Hall said something again that made Audrey's scalp tingle. She really didn't want to waste her limited time on these things. But it was obviously impossible for her to directly resist Earl Hall's arrangements. She could only tell him that she was very busy now and didn't have much time to learn new things. In the end, the reasonable Earl Hall reduced the original 6 or 7 teachers to 2. Audrey had no choice but to accept this arrangement, and an idea arose in her mind. Could it be that Mr. Hasta had anticipated this result? So he asked himself to ask Earl Hall's opinion? In a small villa, Sharon was flipping through a story collection. This was a book Asta bought for her, saying that it recorded fairy tales from Fasak. She refused at first, but after reading the first story, she felt that the book was well selected. The stories in it were all very interesting, and it also introduced a lot of customs and practices of Fasak. But compared to this kind of fairy tale books, she preferred the stories written by Asta himself. His stories seemed to contain more fantastic ideas, and the protagonists of the stories were very much to her liking. There are the adventures of Pinocchio who made puppets, the genius magic girl who joined the Magic Academy, the P-Man, and so on. Sharon, Asta sent an invitation to invite us to celebrate the new year with him. What do you think of this idea? At this time, Marge strode over with an invitation in his hand. Well, it's okay. Sharon just replied lightly. Since she left the Rose School and her teacher was no longer around, she had no expectations for this festival. You don't look very happy. Really? Marichi seemed to smell gossip, and said a little bit meanly, absolutely. Do you regret rejecting Hasta's proposal to go to South Wales with him? Do you really want to go? Well, staying in Backland all the time always makes me feel like my time is being wasted. Are you eager for adventure? I'm just a little tired of this kind of life now. Marichi sighed. He now helps Sharon deal with some things during the day, and usually goes to the Brave Bar at night to play cards with his zombies and take care of this base. The very dull life gradually made him unbearable. Marichi, it seems that you haven't learned to really restrain yourself. I can't compare to you in this regard, so you can be promoted earlier than me. Now, have you completely digested your Wraith potion? Yes. No wonder you are becoming more and more like a puppet now. Are you acting in advance? Marichi, you are wrong. This is the real me, not just a puppet. Okay. Marichi didn't discuss this issue anymore, but asked Sharon what gift she was going to prepare for Hasta. Sharon, you won't go to the party empty-handed to celebrate the new year without any preparation, right? Sharon didn't answer this question. She really hadn't prepared anything yet. Only Marich was very active in this matter. She had always been very restrained, no matter in which aspect. If you do this, Hasta, who is looking forward to receiving gifts, will be disappointed. You talk too much. Marichi learned to shut up silently, put the invitation on the small wooden table, and turned to leave. He hadn't prepared a gift yet either. He just deliberately provoked Sharon. The new year is coming soon. Azishara, your new clothes are ready. You can try them on first. Meow.
Ashera stretched out her front paws and put them on her ears, indicating that she didn't hear anything.
You agreed to this last time and paid a lot of silverfish in advance. Meow? Azishara looked confused, as if she had forgotten such a thing. You also agreed to wear a new set of clothes every month in the future. Meow? Azishara raised her little paw to protest. This was an unwarranted condition. Look, don't you remember it very clearly? Azishara shrugged her head and was handed to the maid next to her by Hasta to try on the new clothes. Hasta himself also wanted to try on the dress for the banquet. The closer it was to the new year, the more banquets there were among the nobles. Although he had tried his best to refuse, there were always some banquets that he couldn't avoid.
For example, at Prince Edisik's dinner tonight, who knew how he was still alive? According to the description in the original book, he should have died for the witch and became a victim of the royal family's excuse to block the church. But now he survived, and invited me to attend his dinner party, speaking sincerely, even in a humble and begging manner. A prince has done this. Hasta can only go once, although he doesn't like to participate in the affairs of the witch sect. Around 8 o'clock in the evening, Hasta arrived at Prince Edisik's manor in a carriage. Prince Edesik tonight was dressed in formal clothes, and looked no different from the past, but his eyes were full of vicissitudes and sadness, a bit like Leonard the Wandering Poet. What surprised Hasta was that Prince Edesik did not invite Lady Germani tonight, and not many people came to the banquet. It should be that many nobles knew the story between him and the witch, and knew that he had become an abandoned child of the royal family and was disliked by the king, so they deliberately found reasons to refuse his invitation tonight. As soon as Hasta arrived, Prince Edesik walked over quickly, with a complicated look and an unexpected tone. I didn't expect you to come to my party tonight. I thought you would reject my invitation as you always did. Maybe there are not enough people for your banquet tonight, so I came here to make up the number. Prince Edesik forced a smile and invited Hasta to the study on the second floor to chat. In the study, Prince Edsak took out the best tea from the royal family to treat Hasta, and said in a lighter tone than before, I have always wanted to see you, especially after what happened. It's really surprising. I remember that I had no interaction with His Highness the Prince. It's true that we have no intersection, but I think you should be a friend worth making. His Royal Highness, you are ridiculous. I am not that good. Hasta declined the request to make friends. He came here tonight mainly to see what Prince Edsak was going to do, not to make friends with him. This can be a hassle. You have always refused my invitation before, probably because you have long known that the situation here is very troublesome. I just happen to have something to take care of. Prince Edsak did not continue this topic, but said, I want to know something about the witch sect. Can you answer my questions? I don't know much. Hasta thought for a moment and briefly introduced the witch cult to Prince Edsak. The introduction was very simple and did not involve too many secrets of the witch cult. Are all the witches in the witch sect really transformed from male to female? Hasta looked at him deeply and said, whoever appears in front of you is who it is. If there is true love between you, why do you care about the other person's past gender? This sentence is a killer sentence. Leonard obviously cannot accept this fact. This Prince Edsak has a little bit of true love. I just can't accept it for the moment. Prince Edsak's expression was very painful, but he soon suppressed his heartache and said instead, if I want to find her again, what channels do I need to use? Tisk, it is indeed true love. Hasta already understood the thoughts of Prince Edsak, and said with a smile, if she feels for you as much as you love her, then she should appear in front of you by herself. Really? Prince Edsak looked obviously excited. When the time is right. Hasta didn't say anything. He was also looking forward to whether the witch's love would be a happy one. It's better not to do it. If she comes to me, it will definitely put her in danger. I can't be so selfish. Prince Edsak looked into the distance, looking deeply in love. In this regard, Hasta could only say something about letting things develop naturally. After solving the major problem on his mind, Edsak was in a good mood and took a sip of tea. Baron Hasta Campbell, thank you for clarifying my doubts this time. To express my gratitude, I would like to transfer a building located in the North District of St. A villa near Muir Church is given to you, and I hope you will not refuse. How did you know I wanted to buy a house in the North End? I am also a prince after all. I really want to investigate some things, and I can still get some useful information. Seeing this, Hasta didn't say anything anymore. With just a few words, he got a villa, and tonight's dinner was not in vain.
In this regard, Prince Edsac is still very generous. It can be seen that he really loves that witch very deeply. I hope no one else knows about tonight's chat. I have forgotten the content of the chat just now. When I came back from Prince Edsac, it was already past 11 o'clock in the evening.
Ashera was already sleeping soundly in her little nest. She must have been put through a lot of trouble getting dressed. When she saw Hastur coming back, she just glanced lazily and didn't even open her eyes.
Hastur did not disturb its rest. He went to take a bath first, then returned to his room, lay on the bed and entered the Palace of Stars, scanning a circle of stars as usual. The next day, Hastur specially sent someone to give Zio a gift, which contained 1,000 gold pounds. Hugh put a lot of effort into solving the Lockhart matter and made things go smoothly. Her efforts were worth the money. Moreover, the new year is approaching, and this money can also allow her and 4C to have a good year.
With a huge sum of 1,000 gold pounds, she would probably be too happy to sleep. After opening the box and seeing a large stack of 10 gold pound notes inside, Zio was stunned and even stopped breathing. After a long while, she tried to suppress her excitement and waved her hands, saying, "Furs, did you see that? It's 1,000 gold pounds." Furs was attracted by the voice and came over. After seeing the 1,000 gold pounds in the box, she said with envy, "So much money, Zio, you didn't sell yourself to Mr. Asta, did you?"
"What are you talking about? I earned this money through my own efforts." Shu looked proud and told Furs about her cooperation with Asta. She thought that giving her at most 100 or 200 gold pounds would be a lot, but she didn't expect it to be 1,000 gold pounds. When she spread the news before, she also took the opportunity to sell a lot of information and earned about 80 gold pounds. Now it's another huge sum of money.
She was so excited that she didn't know how to spend the money. She would definitely not be able to sleep tonight.
It's obvious that Mr. Asta felt sorry for you and deliberately gave you some work to do. Hee, you can continue to envy. This is 1,000 gold pounds, which is equivalent to the total royalties of your entire book, right? First did not answer. The royalties for her book were not that much, usually between a few hundred gold pounds, and she had never received more than 1,000 gold pounds. Shu smiled with narrowed eyes, patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, I won't forget you. All the expenses for this year's New Year will be covered by me." "Really? Of course it's true. I plan to take out 100 gold pounds to have a rich New Year." The two of them have always been frugal in the New Year. If they earn more this year, they will spend more money to have a good New Year. If they earn less money, they will buy some food and stay at home, watching others wear new clothes and go out to play. In the past, First paid more money. Zio had very little savings and always wanted to be promoted, so she didn't dare to spend it casually. "I've always planned to buy a new skirt. How can one skirt be enough? At least 3 sets of New Year clothes are needed." Shu generously said that she would cover all the expenses, just as a New Year's gift to Furs. "What are we waiting for? Let's go out and buy now." "Let's go. No need to save money for me today." Shu led Furs out happily. On the other side, as the New Year was approaching, Leonard, who could finally take a break, listened to his teammates discussing how to celebrate the New Year. He quietly walked aside and did not participate in this topic. He has always been alone. When he was in Tingen, he could spend the New Year with the captain. After all, neither of them had a family, so they just stayed at the Night Watcher's base to celebrate the New Year together. But this year, he came to Backland. Although Klein was also traveling with him, Klein's brother and sister would come to Backland from Tingen to celebrate the New Year in 2 days. During this period, Klein had been busy with the decoration of the new house. He seemed to attach great importance to and look forward to the new year. Although Klein had invited him to celebrate the New Year together, he was embarrassed to disturb their family reunion. After all, they hadn't seen each other for almost half a year, and they must have a lot to talk about. "Alas, old man, I can only celebrate this year with you. Hee, if you hadn't refused at the beginning, you could have had a new family a long time ago." "Old man, can you please stop mentioning her? I'm really afraid of meeting her again." "New Year, I remember that this festival has become more and more important because of Roussel. He seems to like this festival very much." "Is it related to Emperor Roussel? During his reign, there would be many interesting activities every New Year, and even required the factory to give employees a full 7-day holiday so that they could also celebrate the New Year." Leonard listened to the old man telling the history of the past, and for a while he didn't feel so lonely. West District. After finishing a day's work, Klein returned to his newly rented house in the South District of the Bridge. This is also a townhouse with a structure of 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms, and is equipped with 3 bathrooms. It is slightly smaller than the house rented in Tingen. There is no other way. The house prices in Backland are too high. The rent for the same house is about 1.5 times that of Tingen.
Although he has some extra income during this period, it is not enough to pay for the purchase of a new house. He can only rent it for the time being. Before the Chinese New Year next year, he should be able to save enough money to buy a new house.
See if he can buy a small villa in one step. A house that belongs to you completely is really comfortable to live in. After visiting the house several times, Klein listed the things that need to be purchased on paper. In 2 days, Benson and Melissa will come to Backland. He has to decorate the room for them, which can be regarded as a small surprise for them. In addition to decorating the room, he also has to prepare some New Year goods. How can he not prepare some food for the new year? As for spending money, isn't it for the beauty of the new year to work hard for a whole year?
Money is saved for use at this time. Right now, Backland's daytime temperature is generally around -7 to -8 degrees Celsius, and it's a bit colder at night. We must prepare a new set of warm clothes for Melissa. This must be done before she arrives in Backland, otherwise she will definitely use all kinds of excuses to refuse.
Benson will need a new set of formal clothes when he comes to Backland and passes the civil service exam. He will also need a tie, a pocket watch, and a cane. As for myself, I can also buy a set of more casual clothes. After all, buying summer clothes in winter will save a lot of money.
In terms of food, beef, fish, and pork are still the main meats. You can also prepare a few special dishes of Backland for Benson and Melissa to taste.
During the new year, you can also take them to Queens for a stroll. It is the most lively place in Backland during the new year. Klein unconsciously revealed a smile at the corner of his mouth. Celebrating the new year really makes people feel unreal. Fortunately, I have a home here and my relatives are with me to celebrate the new year. Count Hall's house. Audrey looked at the busy maids and felt an indescribable feeling in her heart. After this new year, she will truly become an adult. In the aristocratic circle, once a noble lady becomes an adult, her family will soon arrange a marriage for her, and then she will get married in 2 or 3 years. Whenever she thought of this question, she was a little resistant to growing up. But adulthood seems to have a magical power that makes people always yearn for it. Although they are only 1 year apart, adults and minors are different in many ways. Generally, after adulthood, parents will not restrict their private lives too strictly, and will give them more freedom. In many things, they will no longer prohibit this or that, but will let them try more and get familiar with the new rules of adults as soon as possible. Even on the issue of men and women, parents have begun to learn to turn a blind eye, and some parents even encourage them to get in touch with more outstanding young nobles. Once the two have a crush on each other, they will weigh the family conditions of both parties and start to arrange a lifetime marriage when they feel it is appropriate. These are the personal experiences of some other noble ladies when she attended the tea party. Obviously, they complained a lot in their words, but their faces were full of smiles. It can be seen that they are not very resistant to adulthood, but are willing to accept their new identity. Audrey, who was a little worried, sighed as she looked at Susie, who was resting on the ground as usual. Susie's days were sometimes enviable. She seemed to have no worries. It made no difference to her whether it was the new year or other festivals. How many bones she could eat this year, and the same would be true next year. Perhaps the only problem she needed to worry about was how much delicious food her stomach could hold during the new year. Woof, feeling the gaze from Audrey, Susie raised her head slightly and glanced at Audrey. It's okay, you continue to sleep. Susie buried her head again and began to close her eyes to think about the problem. This year, it was different from previous years. In previous years, it was really sleeping when it lay on the ground, but now, it lay down with its eyes closed, but its mind was constantly running. It was thinking about some big life problems that transcended dog life, such as where did dogs come from and where should they go? Who is it? What kind of existence is a dog, and how is it different from humans? What kind of dog life goals should a dog who has learned to think set? There are too many questions worth thinking about, and he also wants to ask Audrey for answers to these questions. But he knows that he has surpassed Audrey by a lot in reading. After all, he reads some of the works of Emperor Roussel every day to learn the knowledge and spirit in them. And Audrey has to learn some things she doesn't like very much every day, such as dancing, social etiquette, instrumental music, painting, languages of various countries, and even political history.
In this comparison, he feels that he is much happier than Audrey. As for this year's New Year's gift, he has already thought about it. He wants a complete set of Emperor Russell's works on thought. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.